It's quiet right now. Too quiet. And if this is you, you already know what that silence sounds like. Phone face down. Screen dark. But your thumb still knows where her name is. Muscle memory, like reaching for something that isn't there anymore and pretending you didn't just do that. You tell yourself you're fine. You tell your friends you're cool with it. You even say it out loud sometimes, just to hear how convincing it sounds. But it's 3 a.m. and the truth doesn't sleep. Maybe this hits closer than you expected, because you're standing at that edge right now. The one where every option feels wrong. Block her and you look bitter. Beg her and you lose whatever dignity you have left. Do nothing and your mind fills in the gaps for you. Over and over. You replay the last conversation, not the whole thing, just the parts you wish you'd said differently. The pause before she answered, the way her tone shifted, barely noticeable, but you felt it. The "I'll talk to you later" that never really came. And you wonder, was that the moment? Did I push too hard? Did I not push enough? You scroll back through old messages like you're looking for evidence. As if there's a hidden sentence that explains everything. As if one emoji used differently could have changed the ending. You don't block her, not because you're weak, but because blocking feels like admitting it's over, and you're not ready to say that out loud yet. You don't beg either. You type something, then delete it. Type again, delete. You imagine how it would land, how she'd read it, whether she'd feel relief or power or nothing at all. And that last one scares you more than rejection. There's this strange ache that comes with waiting. Not hope, not despair, something in between. Like holding your breath without realizing you've been doing it for days. You check your phone when it buzzes, even though you know it won't be her. And there's that half second of disappointment you pretend you didn't feel. You tell yourself stories to survive the gap. She just needs space. She'll realize what we had. She's probably thinking about me too. And maybe she is. But maybe not in the way you imagine. What no one tells you is that blocking and begging are actually the same move in different disguises. Both are reactions. Both are about trying to control the feeling instead of understanding it. And deep down, you know that. Because the real discomfort isn't that she hasn't replied. It's that you don't know who you are in the quiet after her. The nights stretch longer. Your room feels unfamiliar. Even music hits differently now. Certain songs feel off limits, like they belong to a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. You're not angry. You're not calm. You're just suspended, waiting for something to break the tension. And here's the part you probably haven't said to anyone, not even yourself. A small part of you hopes she notices your silence, not the dramatic kind. Just enough to feel you again. So let me ask you something, and don't answer it fast. If you stopped trying to prove anything, stopped disappearing, stopped reaching, what would actually happen next? And who would you become in that space? I'm going to talk to you like an older brother would, not to impress you, not to fire you up, just steady. Because this situation doesn't need intensity, it needs clarity. Most men misunderstand this moment for one simple reason: they think it's about her. It's not. You think the choice is block or beg, like those are the only two doors left. Slam it shut or fall to your knees. Both feel decisive. Both feel like action. And when you're uncomfortable, action feels like relief. But here's the truth most guys learn late. Blocking her isn't strength. Begging her isn't love. They're just different ways of saying, I can't sit with this feeling. I remember being in a room just like yours late. One lamp on. Phone buzzing with nothing important. I told myself I was done. Told myself I didn't care. Then I checked my phone again for no reason. Same screen, same silence. That little drop in the chest. That's when I realized something uncomfortable. I wasn't reacting to her behavior. I was reacting to my loss of control. Most men don't want connection. They want certainty. They want to know where they stand. When that's gone, they panic. And panic looks like either chasing or cutting everything off. Both are mistakes. Here's the first principle you probably won't like. A man who is centered does not rush to be understood. He doesn't block to send a message. He doesn't beg to be reassured. He doesn't perform emotions hoping for a reaction. He stabilizes himself first, not in a fake way, not by pretending it doesn't hurt, but by grounding back into his own life, his body, his routine, his standards. Think about it. Every time you've blocked someone in anger, did you feel powerful afterward? Or did it feel hollow once the adrenaline wore off? And every time you begged, even politely, did it bring respect? Or did it leave a quiet shame that lingered longer than the rejection? Women don't lose interest because a man feels. They lose interest when his feelings start running him. There's a second principle here that changes everything. Attention is not value. Stability is. Most men think pulling away means disappearing. That silence is a tactic. It's not. Silence without stability is just absence. And absence alone doesn't do anything. What does something is when your absence is filled with a life that's moving forward. I'm not talking about posting pictures. I'm not talking about trying to make her jealous. That's still reacting. I'm talking about something quieter. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. You stop replaying conversations. You go to sleep without rehearsing what you'd say if she texted right now. That shift is felt, even if she never reaches out. Because when a man stops orbiting emotionally, the dynamic changes. Not because he's playing a game, but because he's no longer leaking need. Here's what most guys miss. Blocking says, I need to protect myself from you. Say, begging says, I need you to choose me. Neither says, I'm solid without forcing anything. And solidity is rare. I've watched men talk themselves out of their own power by trying to control outcomes instead of controlling themselves. They mistake calm for passivity. They mistake patience for weakness. It's neither. Calm is discipline. Restraint is strength. When you don't block, you're not leaving the door open. When you don't beg, you're not closing yourself off. You're standing still long enough to let the truth surface about her, yes, but mostly about you. And here's the part you need to hear. If she comes back while you're grounded, it's different. If she doesn't, you're still intact. No loss of face, no regret-filled messages, no damage control. Just a man who didn't abandon himself in the moment it mattered. So ask yourself this, and don't rush it. Are you trying to get a reaction from her? Or are you finally ready to become someone who doesn't need one to stay steady? The room is dim, not dark. Just enough light leaking in from the street to outline the furniture. A car passes. Tires hiss on wet pavement. Somewhere a fan hums uneven like it's tired too. He's sitting on the edge of the bed, not lying down, not standing up. That in-between position people sit in when they don't know what comes next. Phone in his hand, warm from how long he's been holding it. No notifications. He flips it face down, then back again, like that changes anything. Earlier tonight he told himself he wouldn't think about her. Said it out loud, even. As if the walls needed to hear it. But then a song came on, not even as their song, just one with a familiar rhythm, and his chest tightened before he could stop it. Funny how memory works. Not big moments. Not the dramatic stuff. It's the small things. The way she'd pause before answering when something mattered. How she used to steal his hoodie and never admit it. That half smile she did when she didn't fully agree but didn't want to argue. He remembers the last time they spoke. Not the words. The silence between them. That second too long. The air shifting. He felt it then but didn't want to name it. Now it's all he can name. His thumb hovers over her name. He doesn't open the chat. Just hovers. Like standing outside a door you're not sure you're allowed to knock on anymore. Block her, a voice says. End it. Take control. Another voice, quieter, says, say something. Anything. Don't let it die like this. He exhales long, slow, feels it in his ribs. He's been here before. Different face, same feeling. That urge to do something just to stop the discomfort, to make the waiting end. Even if it ends badly. He stands up, walks to the window. The glass is cold when he rests his forehead against it. He watches a light turn off in the building across the street. Someone else gonna sleep. Someone else not thinking about this. He thinks about sending a message. Not desperate, just honest. Then he imagines her reading it, imagines the delay before a reply, or worse, no reply at all. That hollow feeling opens again. He laughs quietly, just once, shakes his head. Why does blocking feel like strength when it always leaves him feeling smaller later? Why does begging feel like honesty when it always costs him something he can't quite explain? He sits back down, puts the phone on the table this time, out of reach. His hands feel restless without it, like they don't know what to do when they're not reaching. Minutes pass, or hours. Time isn't behaving normally tonight. His thoughts wander, to work tomorrow, to the gym he's been skipping, to the way his routine slowly unraveled without him noticing. How much of his day had quietly started orbiting her availability. That realization stings. Not because he loved her, that part he can live with, because he stopped anchoring himself. He rubs his face, feels the roughness of stubble, reminds him he's still here, still physical, still real. The room feels different now, not lighter, just steadier, like something stopped shaking. He doesn't block her. He doesn't text her either. He plugs his phone into the charger and leaves it there. Like setting something down you don't trust yourself to hold right now. He lies back on the bed, stares at the ceiling, notices a crack he's never paid attention to before, wonders how long it's been there. His breathing slows, not calm, but calmer. And somewhere, not as a plan, not as a tactic, a quiet decision forms. To stop forcing moments, to stop trying to end the discomfort by sacrificing himself, to let tomorrow arrive without dragging tonight into it. If she reaches out, it'll meet a man who didn't collapse in the waiting. If she doesn't, then this space becomes something else. Something is again. The fan keeps humming. The street stays alive. The world doesn't end. He closes his eyes, not to sleep, just to rest from the thinking. And in that stillness, a question lingers, not loud, not urgent, just honest. What happens when you don't run toward her, and you don't run away either, but finally stand still long enough to see who you are without the noise? There are a few beliefs men carry into moments like this without realizing it. They feel logical, even responsible. But quietly, they work against you. Not because you're weak, because you were never shown another way. Maybe this is one of those slow wake-up moments. The first belief goes something like this. If I don't block her, I'll never move on. It sounds strong, decisive, like self-respect. But most of the time, blocking isn't closure. It's anesthesia. I've blocked people before, told myself I was protecting my peace, and for a day or two it worked. There was relief, silence, a feeling of control. Then the quiet changed. I still thought about her, still replayed moments, still wondered, except now there was no option to face it honestly. Just avoidance dressed up as discipline. Blocking doesn't heal attachment, it just hides it. She didn't ghost you. You disappeared from yourself. When you block too fast, you don't regain power. You freeze yourself in the moment. That hurt. You never let your nervous system calm down enough to see clearly. You mistake emotional numbing for strength. Real detachment isn't dramatic. It's quiet, and it doesn't need an audience. The second belief is the opposite side of the same coin. If I explain myself better, she'll understand. This one feels noble, mature, loving, but pay attention to what's underneath it. You're not trying to communicate, you're trying to secure an outcome. I remember writing long messages that sounded calm on the surface, reasonable. I'd reread them 5 times. Adjust a word here, soften a sentence there, and every time there was that same tight feeling in my chest while waiting for the reply. That wasn't love, that was fear wearing good manners. When your sense of self depends on being understood by someone who's already pulling away, you start bargaining with your dignity, quietly, piece by piece. You don't lose her, you lose your own presence. Begging doesn't always look desperate. Sometimes it looks polite, patient, over-explain. But the effect is the same. You teach the other person that your center lives outside you. And here's the hard truth most men miss. You cannot talk someone into valuing you. Value is felt, not argued. The third belief is more subtle, but it does the most damage. Doing nothing means I don't care, so you feel pressure to do something. Anything. Text, block, post, react. Because sitting still feels like weakness. But stillness is only weak when it's empty. Most men don't understand the difference between silence and grounded silence. Silence without self-respect is just waiting. Silence with self-respect is presence. When you stop reaching, not to manipulate, not to punish, but because you're re-anchoring into your own life, something shifts. Not always in her, always in you. You sleep better. You breathe deeper. You stop checking your phone like it's a verdict on your worth. And whether she comes back or not, you're no longer leaking need into every thought. Attention is cheap. Respect is priceless. This is the part that feels uncomfortable at first. You realize how much of your energy was being spent trying to control perception instead of building stability. How often you confused intensity for intimacy, action for strength. None of these beliefs make you a bad man. They make you a normal one. But you don't outgrow them by forcing new behavior. You outgrow them by seeing them clearly, by noticing when you want relief more than truth, when you want certainty more than self-respect. This isn't about winning her back. It's about not abandoning yourself while waiting. So let it land slowly. What if the move isn't blocking or begging? What if it's becoming so grounded that neither feels necessary anymore? And if that happened, truly happened, who would you be showing up as next time with her or anyone else? Most men think power shows up loud, fast, decisive on the outside. The 1% headman knows better. This is what he understands. Real power shows up quiet first. When things start slipping with her, his nervous system doesn't hijack him. He feels the same spike, the heat in the chest, the urge to do something, but he doesn't obey it immediately. He notices it, names it, lets it pass through instead of letting it drive. Most men confuse urgency with importance. The headman doesn't. This is how he leads with presence, not pressure. He slows down when everything in him wants to speed up. When there's no reply, he doesn't assume meaning right away. He doesn't turn silence into a story that destroys him. He understands that imagination is most dangerous when self-respect is low, so he brings himself back to what's real. Feet on the floor, breath in the chest, life in front of him. He knows something most men overlook. Your emotional state is louder than your words. So he doesn't block her to prove a point. He doesn't beg her to ease the tension. He doesn't posture strength or perform indifference. He stays centered. This is what he understands. Reaction is easy. Regulation is rare. There's a moment, always, where he could chase, send the message, explain, ask for reassurance. He feels it. Of course he does. He's human. But instead of acting from the spike, he chooses patience over panic. That pause changes everything. Not because she magically feels it, but because he does. And here's the part most men miss. The headman doesn't use silence as a tactic. He uses it as space. Space to return to his routine. Space to lift again. Space to focus at work. Space to sleep without rehearsing conversations. This is how he leads with presence, not pressure. When he does speak, it's clean. When he doesn't, it's not empty. Most men go quiet while internally collapsing. The headman goes quiet while internally stabilizing. That difference is felt in tone, timing, posture, energy. He understands another uncomfortable truth. You don't attract respect by needing to be chosen. You attract it by being anchored. So when days pass without contact, he doesn't count them like a scorecard. He doesn't look for signs. He doesn't stalk patterns. He keeps building his life until the silence no longer feels like a threat. That's inner steadiness. This is what he understands. Being centered is more attractive than being intense. If she comes back, she meets a man who didn't shrink. If she doesn't, she becomes a chapter, not a wound. Either way, he wins. Not in a dramatic way, in a grounded one. There's a moment that defines him. Phone in hand, message typed, heart rate slightly elevated. Old version would send it, or block, or spiral. The headman exhales, deletes the draft, puts the phone down, goes back to his life. Not because he's cold, because he's solid. This is how he leads with presence, not pressure. He trusts that what's meant to align doesn't require self-betrayal. He knows chasing creates imbalance. He knows disappearing creates confusion. So he chooses a third path most men never learn. Standing still without leaking need. That's the 1%, not louder, not harder, just steadier. And the irony, that steadiness is what changes outcomes with her, with others, with himself. Because for the first time, his center isn't up for negotiation. That's the mindset most men overlook. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The room smells like cold coffee and last night's air. Morning light slips through the curtain, thin and pale. He hasn't slept much. Not badly, just lightly, like his body was waiting for permission to rest. His phone is on the table, face up this time, no message for a second. The old reflex kicks in, that familiar tightening, the urge to reach, to fix, to close the gap before it widens into something permanent. A flash hits him, her laugh in the car, another, the way he apologized for things he didn't even do, just to keep the peace. Ed's another, staring at this same phone weeks ago, promising himself this time would be different. His jaw tightens. He picks the phone up, types a sentence, stops halfway, reads it, feels that small bend inward, that quiet self-betrayal he's learned to ignore. And something in him finally goes still. Not angry, not dramatic, just clear. He deletes the message, puts the phone back down. It lands heavier than he expects. He exhales. Shoulders drop. The room feels wider, like it did before he started shrinking himself to fit someone else's uncertainty. A thought passes through him, soft, almost embarrassed to exist. I don't have to earn my place. It's not loud, but it's final. He stands up, washes his face, looks at himself in the mirror a second longer than usual. And for the first time in a while, he doesn't ask what she's thinking. He remembers who he is. So here's where it settles. Not in blocking, not in begging, not in winning or losing her. It settles in the moment you stop negotiating your worth for relief. When the phone goes quiet and you don't rush to fill the space. When the ache shows up and you don't amputate yourself to escape it. That's when the balance shifts, not because she changes, but because you do. And whether she walks back or fades out, the man who didn't abandon himself is the man who never truly lost. Stand still. That's where your power has been waiting.